Story 1. By Cassie. A few years ago, I moved to a new city, the outskirts of the city, to be more specific. It felt a lot more like a small town with houses more spread out and things being really eerily calm and calm. The home I bought was small but nice. From my view, knew nobody before moving there, and I wasn't exactly a social butterfly, so I just kept to myself most of the time. A few days after moving in, though, a knock came at the front entrance. From my view, was in the middle of unpacking still, so I got up and answered it. The man was a tall, older guy with black hair and a patchy medium beard. He introduced himself as Todd, a neighbor from a few doors down. He wanted to say hi and welcome me to the street. From my view, appreciated the gesture, reciprocating the friendliness and continuing the small talk for a few minutes. He asked some basic questions just to get to know me. All the usual ones like why I moved, where I moved from, and if I moved with anyone. In the context of being a new neighbor, these didn't seem like off-putting questions at all. He mentioned he lived with his wife Sarah and enjoyed the peace and eerily calm of the street. After our short talk, he left me to finish moving in. Todd seemed like a nice guy, just trying to be a decent neighbor. He was at least 20 or 30 years older than me, so I knew we wouldn't become good friends or anything, but it was nice to know someone friendly was around. The next few days I settled in, taking walks around the street and just getting used to the new area. Oddly, it was hard not to notice that nobody was ever outside. Every time I looked around or walked around, I never saw any neighbors on their porches or in their yards. The whole town felt hollow, empty in a way that made me feel out of place. Honestly, it was kind of depressing. But around one afternoon, Todd came by again. He wanted to let me know that he and his wife were having a get-together with a bunch of the other neighbors for dinner that night at his place. He said it'd be a great opportunity for me to get to meet all the other nice people around here. From my view, definitely wasn't expecting this invitation from everything I'd seen, or I guess from what I hadn't seen. From my view, figured everyone just kept to themselves like I usually did, but it seemed like this might be one of my only chances to get to meet people, so I accepted the offer. He said he looked forward to seeing me there, then left. From my view, was excited, but mostly nervous about meeting a bunch of people. From my view, knew it'd be good for me, though. Come 7:30, I got ready and started walking over to his place. The whole street was gloomy and silent, peaceful, but also a little unsettling feeling again, giving that hollow sense like I was somehow all alone. As I got up to Todd's place, it looked the same, inactive, and no cars or anything near his home. From my view, headed up to the entrance. It was already cracked open, but I still knocked on it anyway. Todd immediately yelled from inside for me to come on in and make myself at home. His whisper echoed through the halls, and it was real eerily calm in there. No other voices or even sounds of movement. Not what I expected from a whole street get-together. From my view, took a few steps in. His home had very moody lighting, making it gloomy and shadowy in all the rooms. From my view, headed down to the kitchen where I heard Todd's whisper come from, but when I got there, it was empty. He wasn't there. From my view, called out his name. And then I called out his wife's name and got no response from either. And then I noticed there was nothing even in the kitchen. No food on the table and no signs of any sort of get-together. And the realization set in that nobody else was here. Then all of a sudden, I heard the front entrance slam shut. It startled me and I quickly called out Todd's name again, only to still be met by the disturbing, unnerving stillness of his home. From my view, walked back to the end of the hallway, confirming the front entrance was now shut. From my view, felt the sense of imminent danger, of dread creeping into me that up until that point in my life, I'd never felt before. From my view, started hurrying up to the front entrance, and as I did, I heard a couple steps from somewhere in one of the rooms behind me. From my view, didn't waste any time turning to look. From my view, got up to the entrance. It was locked in 3 different places, which told me this definitely wasn't some sort of accident. As I undid all the locks, Todd called my name out and asked where I was going. From my view, could hear him quickly approaching behind me, his whisper getting deeper and less friendly with every word he spoke. From my view, got the entrance open and sprinted back home. From my view, debated calling the police, but ultimately decided I would and let the officers figure out whether or not he had intentions. I'm glad I did, because a couple minutes after making it home, Todd showed up, banging on my entrance and peering into my windows from outside. He left before the officers made it, though. But things only got even weirder from here. In the questioning from the cops, it turned out Todd had never planned any get-together with other neighbors and didn't even have a wife or live with anyone named Sarah. He lived there alone for over a decade. Basically, everything he told me was a lie, just some fabricated story to get me to feel comfortable going over to his home. But unfortunately, nothing could be done about it because there was no way to prove he was trying to do anything bad. Everyone, including the cops, knew it was all way too odd for him to be completely innocent. But it didn't matter. There was nothing they could do. From my view, moved away from there as soon as possible. Every so often, I'll check up on that guy, looking up his name and hoping he'd been arrested or something, because I know if he isn't, he's just going to find another victim to lure into his home. What he plans to do or plan to do to me, I hope he can never follow through on. Story 2. By A.V. Music. I used to live in an unnoteworthy simple street right in the center of a regular old town. Most of the families living around there had been there for years, if not decades. From my view, was in the same boat, having grown up there and had the home handed down from my parents when they moved away. This was in my 3rd year living in that home. At some point during the fall, a new neighbor moved into one of the houses across the street from mine. From my view, wasn't the type to go introduce myself or anything like that, but I saw him moving his stuff out of a U-Haul, and he looked like any other ordinary guy. A week after he moved in went by with nothing else to note until one night I got home from work and saw the guy standing outside my home. From my view, recognized him right away, seeing it was the new neighbor, but he didn't seem to be walking by or walking up to my home, just standing on the sidewalk looking at it. From my view, pulled into the garage and got out to go say hi and see what was going on. But in the 20 seconds it took me to get out, he was already gone. He must have hurried away. From my view, found it really unusual, but didn't think too much about it. From my view, had tomorrow off as well, so if he was just stopping by to say hello or ask me something, I'd at least be home to answer the entrance. From my view, went about my night and kind of surprisingly, I forgot about the guy really quickly. He didn't even cross my mind again until morning. While I was outside grabbing the mail, I just happened to look across the street at his home for a second. Didn't look like anything was going on. No lights on or anything. Though, just before I looked away, I caught a glimpse of something move in the upstairs window. From my view, did a double take, but all that was left were the blinds shifting back and forth like he'd just been standing there. Maybe watching me. From my view, got a little unsettled, but I got my mail and went back inside. Could have been a coincidence or him just scoping out the new street. From my view, tried to not worry myself. From my view, spent the day doing chores I'd been putting off, then just chilling, watching Netflix, YouTube, all the regular stuff. From my view, did occasionally peek out the windows just to see if he was out there. Sort of a gut feeling I kept having that I was being watched. Every time I looked though, I didn't see anything. Once the sun set, I thought surely I was good for the night, but I did one more look out the window and that's when I saw him again. He was standing at the end of my driveway. From my view, don't know what it was about the way he was standing, but for some reason I was sure he'd just come from the top of my driveway. Like he was close up to my home just a moment ago. From my view, went to the front entrance and opened it, walking out toward him. From my view, wasn't trying to come off as angry. If anything, I think I was being too friendly. From my view, just wanted to ask him what was up and make sure everything was cool. But as soon as he saw me, he started walking down the sidewalk, pretending like he was just going for a stroll around the street. From my view, called out a couple times only to be ignored. So once I got halfway down the driveway and realized he wasn't going to turn around, I just gave up and went back inside. Now I was really sketched out. From my view, thought I had to be missing something. New neighbor guy constantly looking at my home and even caught staring at me from his window. It was all so creepy and happening for seemingly no reason at all. From my view, stayed up for another couple hours. From my view, saw nothing else, but I still didn't feel great when I went to bed. Took a while to fall asleep, still with that aching gut feeling that I was being watched. From my view, don't know how, but I did manage to pass out at some point. Although, I woke up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. My whole body sat up quickly and I felt incredibly uncomfortable, like something was going on. Yet the whole home was silent. From my view, was so awake though, eyes wide open and heart beating rapidly. From my view, turned the lamp on next to me and looked around. Everything seemed okay. The room was eerily calm and it honestly looked like nothing was happening. But that sinking gut feeling that I was being watched still remained, still pressuring me to not write this off as nothing. From my view, got out of bed and went up to the entrance. From my view, reached out to open it. But in the act of unlocking it, I had this feeling that what I was doing was wrong, that maybe I shouldn't just unlock it and look around. So, I left it locked and instead put my ear up to the entrance. After a moment, I could hear soft creaks in the hallway. Wasn't sure if it was the home or something else, so I knelt down and looked under the entrance. The lights weren't on out there, but I saw nothing on the other side of the entrance. From my view, stayed knelt down for a few seconds, and then something suddenly moved past it. From my view, jumped back, trying not to make a sound. The creaking instantly stopped. He heard me. After a moment of hesitation, several loud footsteps moved along the floor and right up to the other side of the room. From my view, was still in shock, trying to be as eerily calm as possible, sitting up against the front of my bed. From my view, could see the silhouette of his boots under the entrance. They started shifting around and then suddenly I couldn't see anything. The whole bottom of the entrance was covered up by something. From my view, leaned a bit closer. It took a second to make out what it was, but just barely, I saw an eye looking back at me. He was looking under the entrance. From my view, jumped up, ran around, and got my phone. My hands were shaking so badly, it was difficult to even dial 911. From my view, could hear him moving around outside the room, too, thumping on the floor. It seemed that by the time the police were on the way, and I was done with the phone call, he was gone. The whole home was eerily calm again. From my view, didn't risk checking around, though, just in case he was hiding. When cops arrived, they found the home to be empty. From my view, immediately told them my suspicions of the neighbor across the street from me. They went over and talked to him. It was clear he'd been awake for a while. When he answered the entrance, despite it being a.m., apparently, one thing came to another, and the guy blew his cover, accidentally admitting to something he shouldn't have known. They took him in and were able to get the full story out of him, confirming he was the one that broke into my home that night, and he'd been watching me for a lot longer than I was aware of. It wasn't clear how he even found me or even why me in general, as we had never even met before. Cops found his search history having my name in it several times over the course of the last month, even prior to him moving to the street. There's a chance he even made the move specifically to be right across from me. He had some other similar weird stalking cases in the past, so they didn't let him off easy. Shouldn't have to worry about him for a long time, but I still haven't gone a day without thinking about it. It really sucks not having all the answers that I want. He must have broken into my home that night for a reason other than to just stalk me. From my view, think he had some horrible intentions, and I was lucky. My gut feeling kept me from opening my entrance. Story 3. By Anonymous. In my late 20s, I moved a few towns over for work. The experience went fairly smooth, I thought. From my view, settled in at my new job really well, and I managed to find a decent apartment quickly and move what little I had into it. The building was small, just 6 units and only 2 per floor. So, essentially, there was just a flight of stairs going up to each story where there were 2 doors across from each other for the 2 rooms on each floor. From my view, was on the top story, and the woman who lived across from me was the one who gave me the tour. From my view, think she owned a couple units in the building. The woman was older than me, I think around 45, and she wasn't friendly or unfriendly. She was very non-expressive, sort of monotone, and didn't seem to care about her appearance either. She had long, shaggy hair and a tired, mute look over her face every time I saw her. The apartment room was nice enough for me to not care, though. Honestly, I thought I'd never really see her anyway. But I couldn't have been more wrong. On my first full day of work after the move, I came home late at p.m., heading up the stairs and found the woman standing outside the entrance to my room. From my view, was so tired from the long day and also not expecting to see her that I couldn't form a sentence. From my view, definitely made things a bit awkward as she looked at me with that dead stare she always had. And then she asked if this was when I usually got home from work. From my view, thought that was an odd question, but I just said I wasn't too sure because I just started the job recently. Without even acknowledging my answer, she turned, opened her entrance, walked into her room, and slammed the entrance shut behind her. From my view, didn't know if she was meaning to have that much attitude, or if she was mad at me for some reason, but I just headed inside my unit. From my view, was too tired to give it much thought and didn't even make dinner before falling asleep. From my view, must have slept pretty good because I was passed out until a.m. when I was woken abruptly by a loud knock at the entrance. From my view, jumped out of bed completely dazed and startled by it. The knocks kept coming, so I had no choice but to walk over and open the entrance. The woman was standing there looking the same as always, almost like a walking corpse. "Can I help you?" I said groggy, still trying to wake up. She made this really unsettling grimace, surely fake, and asked a really weird question. She wanted me to come over to her place after work tonight. There was still no emotion in her whisper, which gave it a really unsettling feeling. Something wasn't right about this. From my view, didn't know exactly what she meant by coming over after work, like dinner or what, but I tried to be nice and said I was just going to be busy. Without any further response, she again turned around and went back into her room, slamming the entrance shut. It being a.m. already, I figured I'd just stay up and get ready for work. From my view, left the apartment at and got home at 7 o'clock. Thankfully, the woman wasn't outside my entrance, so this time I was able to get into my unit and rest without any weird conversations. From my view, really wasn't sure what was up with her. From my view, didn't feel worried, more just weirded out by her behavior. Anyway, I made dinner and got in bed at 10 o'clock. From my view, had my alarm set for 6:45, but was again woken abruptly to pounding at the front entrance. From my view, got up, already sure who it was. From my view, opened the entrance and standing right there was the same woman with the same dull face. And even more unsettling, the conversation went nearly the exact same as it did the previous morning. She asked the same thing for me to come over to her place after work, and I made the same excuse. She went back into her apartment and slammed the entrance, and I was left just confused and uneasy about the whole thing. Her lack of emotions made it impossible to decipher what she was really meaning by doing all this. From my view, stayed up having a small breakfast and then heading to work. The day was long once again, staying in the office until at least 8, but probably closer to 8:30. From my view, didn't make it back to the apartment until 9:15. The whole lot was empty and eerily calm. Nobody outside and all the lights in the building were off as most people were probably getting in bed by then. From my view, hoped this meant the woman wouldn't bother me tonight and I could just slip in unnoticed. From my view, parked and got inside, going up the stairs and trying not to be too loud. When I got up to my room, she wasn't there. From my view, sighed in relief and put my key in the entrance, but something was off. It was already unlocked. From my view, froze for a second, the realization hitting me. She had to be the only other person that could unlock it. But still, in the moment, though, I couldn't fully believe it. From my view, the lady was creepy and all, but surely not that creepy. There was no way this was as bad as I was thinking. From my view, opened the entrance and I noticed something felt weird about the entrance knob as well, but I didn't pay attention as I had a more pressing situation I was focused on. The entrance closed behind me as I took a few steps into my apartment. The lights were all off just like I left them, but my bedroom entrance was open. From my view, could hear my heart beating as I walked up and looked into my room. The woman was standing next to my bed, her face mostly covered by shadows, but I could still see the dull, emotionless expression she had. From my view, started to mutter, "What are you doing?" But I stumbled over my words when I glanced down at the kitchen knife in her hand. After the moment of shock, I ran for the entrance. From my view, grabbed the handle and tried to swing it open, but almost lost my footing as I wasn't expecting it to not budge. It was stuck in the doorway. The knob wouldn't even move. From my view, immediately knew the woman had rigged the entrance so it locked me inside with her. In that moment, I suddenly felt adrenaline fill me. And rather than being scared, I was pissed off at whatever this psycho lady was doing. She came at me, still holding the knife, but I don't think she was expecting a fight because I was very easily able to catch her off guard and get the knife away from her. From my view, held her down and called the police, keeping her under control until they got there. It was only after they got her in handcuffs that I noticed she'd actually gotten a quick slash on the back of my arm. Nothing too bad, but once the adrenaline was gone, it wasn't exactly painless. Anyway, she apparently had some serious disorders and wasn't taking the proper medication for the last several months leading to her having an episode. That was the excuse I got from her family, but it didn't really change anything. In the end, though, everything worked out okay. From my view, was able to handle myself and didn't have any lasting impacts from the whole ordeal. It definitely could have been 1,000 times worse, though. Really scary stories, every day. Subscribe, like if you like, turn on the bell so you don't miss new videos.